skills. As you know, we are discussing our chapter excretory products and their elimination. In the previous video, we discussed about some introduction and Ureotelism. Now, let's start with the next mode of excretion. If the nitrogenous waste is excreted out in the form of urea, if nitrogenous waste is excreted out in the form of urea, then this type of excretion is known as Ureotelism. उसे हम क्या बोलेंगे? We call it Ureotelism. And this kind of organisms which show this excretion, they are known as ureotelic organism. Organism को हम ureotelic बोलेंगे. और उनमें synthesize क्या हो रहा है? Nitrogenous waste is urea. Nitrogenous waste urea is synthesized there. So this nitrogenous waste, this urea, is less toxic as compared to ammonia. So we can say it's less toxic. Ammonia जो बन रहा था Ureotelism के अंदर कुछ aquatic organism के अंदर, ammonia is highly toxic and it should be released out. But here, if we talk about the urea, which is formed in some organism, it's a less toxic, or we can call it, it's a moderate toxic. ये इतना टॉक्सिक नहीं है कि इसको इमीडिएटली रिलीज किया जाए जैसे कि अमोनिया को करना पड़ रहा था. दिस यूरिया इट कैन बी स्टोर्ड इनटू द बॉडी फॉर सम टाइम. इट कैन बी स्टोर्ड, इसे स्टोर किया जा सकता है. इट कैन बी स्टोर्ड फॉर लॉन्ग टाइम एंड इट डू नॉट डैमेज द टिश्यूज. इट डू नॉट डैमेज द बॉडी टिश्यूज. बॉडी के टिश्यूज को भी डैमेज नहीं करता. एंड इट कैन बी ट्रांसपोर्टेड थ्रू ब्लड ऑल्सो. कैन बी ट्रांसपोर्टेड बाय ब्लड. ब्लड इसे ट्रांसपोर्ट भी कर सकता है. ट्रांसपोर्टेड बाय ब्लड. And we're saying that it's a less toxic or moderate toxic. That's why it can be released through the water. यहाँ पे भी water की जरूरत होगी इसे release करने के लिए. But here the excess amount of water is not required. जैसे हमने पिछले में देखा था Ureotelism में 300 to 500 ml water required था for release of 1 gram ammonia. Here the moderate amount of water is required. The moderate amount of water is required. Moderate amount of water हमें required है. And कितना यहाँ पे water हमें चाहिए? The water which is required to release the 1 gram of urea, 1 gram of urea is 50 ml. So only 50 ml water को utilize करते हुए ही यूरिया को release, 50 ml water को utilize करते हुए यूरिया को release किया जा सकता है. So these things we can say about the urea. It's a less toxic as compared to ammonia. Ammonia से comparison में हमने इसे less toxic कहा है. It can be stored by the body for a long time without damaging the body tissues. It can be transported by the blood and it's required less amount of the water or moderate amount of water to release from the body, and the water amount is 50 ml for 1 gram of urea. So ये चीज हमने देखी. अब हमें देखते हैं how this urea is formed. How this urea is formed? The urea is formed in the liver. This urea is formed into the liver, and in the liver this urea is formed through a cycle which is known as urea cycle. जिस cycle के through ये form होता है उस cycle को हम बोलते हैं urea cycle, or we can call it ornithine cycle, or we can call it Krebs-Haslet cycle. So these are the name of this cycle through which the urea is formed. ये साइकिल हम आगे के कुछ आने वाले वीडियोस में डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे. सो वी आर नॉट डिस्कसिंग इट हियर नाउ. So in this way the urea is formed into the liver. Let's see how this urea is formed. बनेगा कैसे ये urea? For the formation of the urea into the liver, first the ammonia, जो अमोनिया बना है बॉडी के अंदर, जिसे ये ऑर्गेनिज्म अपने अमोनिया की फॉर्म में रिलीज नहीं कर सकता. So it has to be converted into the less toxic form. तो अमोनिया को पहले लेस टॉक्सिक फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट करवाना है, और यहाँ पे जो फॉर्म में कन्वर्जन हो रहा है वो है यूरिया. So ammonia which is formed through the deamination of amino acids. This ammonia is transported to the liver where it enters into the ornithine cycle. It's joined with the carbon dioxide and then it's formed the urea. It's formed the urea, and this is an energy consuming process. This process is energy consuming. यहाँ पे एनर्जी को यूटिलाइज किया जा रहा है. देखिए अमोनिया जो था जो जहाँ पे प्रोड्यूस हुआ वहीं पे ही रिलीज हो गया था, तो कोई एनर्जी की जरूरत नहीं थी. बट दोज ऑर्गेनिज्म हु कैन नॉट टॉलरेट, हु कैन नॉट अफोर्ड द एक्सक्रीशन थ्रू द अमोनिया और इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अमोनिया, दे हैव टू एक्सपेंड सम एनर्जी. उन्हें कुछ एनर्जी एक्सपेंड करनी पड़ेगी फॉर कन्वर्जन ऑफ दिस अमोनिया इनटू द यूरिया. दिस वन इज एन एनर्जी कंज्यूमिंग प्रोसेस. If we write the formula of the urea, we can say that urea is represented as into NH2, CO, and H2. Means two amino groups are there. So two ammonia group molecule will be there. So two ammonia molecule join with the carbon dioxide. Then they form the urea, and water is also eliminated out in this process. इस प्रोसेस में वाटर भी रिलीज होगा एंड दिस यूरिया विच इज फॉर्म बाय दिस वे इट कैन बी रिलीज्ड with the 50 ml of water. So in the case of human also this thing happens. Liver synthesize the urea and is released with the urine, but the complete urea is not released out. Some amount of urea is retained into the body to maintain the osmoregularity. पूरा का पूरा यूरिया बॉडी के बाहर रिलीज नहीं किया जाता है. ओके ये हो गई बात. अब आगे अगर हम देखें the examples, what are the organisms which are showing this kind of excretion. So examples में हम बोल सकते हैं, examples में हमें यहाँ पे मिलेंगी the cartilaginous fishes, they excrete their nitrogenous waste in the form of urea. In the case of these cartilaginous fishes, all tissues they form the urea. All tissues form the urea except heart and brain. They release nitrogenous waste in the form of urea except heart and brain. Next example we can say that amphibians are also ureotelic organisms. Exception यहाँ पे याद रखिएगा. If we talk about the larval tadpole stage of the amphibians, they are ammonotelic because they are living in the water, but adult amphibians are ureotelic. And the next example is the mammals. The mammals are ureotelic because they release the nitrogenous waste in the form of urea. So these are some examples of the ureotelic organisms. Now let's discuss about one important concept also, that is dual excretion. Some organisms also show the dual excretion, यानी कि वो किसी एक फॉर्म में नाइट्रोजनस वेस्ट की फॉर्म में बॉडी से अपने वेस्ट को एक्सक्रीट कर रहे हैं, बट इफ द कंडीशन चेंज दे कैन अडॉप्ट अनदर वे आल्सो. इसी इसमें कॉन्ट्रास्ट में अगर हम देखें द ड्यूअल एक्सक्रीशन, some organisms like earthworm, lungfishes and crocodile. These are the some organisms, some animals which can show the dual excretion. Like earthworm की अगर हम बात करें, if earthworm is living in the soil where excess amount of water is present, then it's release ammonia. But if we capture it or it's living in the condition where the excess water is not available, then it's release nitrogenous waste in the form of urea. Same way lungfishes और crocodile भी same करते हैं. Crocodile की अगर हम बात करें, when they are living into the water, then they are ammonotelic. But अगर हमने crocodile को पानी के बाहर निकाल के रखा है बहुत लंबे टाइम तक, then crocodiles release nitrogenous waste in the form of urea. Then they become ureotelic. They will not behave like an ammonotelic because they do not have excess amount of water to release the ammonia. So these kind of organisms, और भी बहुत सारे animals हैं, but हमने यहाँ पे कुछ example ली है इस concept को समझने के लिए, that animals can show dual excretion also. It depends on their environmental conditions. So here we discussed about the ureotelism, and you have to keep remember how the urea is formed. The ammonia, which is highly toxic nitrogenous waste, is converted into the less toxic, that is the urea, so that the less amount of water can be utilized for its removal. Only 50 ml is utilized for the release of 1 gram of urea, whereas 1 gram ammonia required 300 to 500 ml of water. So this is about ureotelism. Now let's discuss the next important concept, that is urecotelism. Next mode of excretion is urecotelism. If nitrogenous waste is released out in the form of uric acid, if uric acid is formed and nitrogenous waste are released in the form of uric acid, then this mode of excretion is known as urecotelism. इसे हम क्या कहेंगे? We call it urecotelism. And the organisms, they are known as urecotellic. Organisms कहलाएंगे urecotellic organism. Now let's see about this uric acid. The uric acid is considered as the least toxic nitrogenous waste. It's the least toxic, and it can be stored into the body for a long time because it's the least toxic. It do not harm the body tissues, so it can be stored for a long time. It can be stored for long time. बहुत लंबे टाइम तक इसे बॉडी में स्टोर करके रखा जा सकता है. And The conversion of ammonia, the harmful substance, into the least toxic substance like uric acid is a very high energy efficient process. So large amount of energy is required. It's an energy consuming process and large amount of energy required होगी यहाँ पे इस process के लिए to eliminate the uric acid in the form of ATPs. Means more ATPs are required for the conversion of uric acid. Uric acid में conversion के लिए. Now this is are almost insoluble in the water. This uric acid is almost insoluble in water. So it means the very less amount of the least amount of water is required for its elimination. यहाँ पे water में insoluble होने की वजह से बहुत ही कम amount पे हमें water की requirement है. Almost 1 gram uric acid can be eliminated with the help of 10 ml of water. Only 10 ml water is required for elimination of 1 gram uric acid. In this way, we can say that when water is very less, so the uric acid which is released out through the body, it is present in the form of semi-solid और paste की form में present होता है. Paste की form में release होगा body के बाहर. It can be released in the form of semi-solid or in the form of paste. तो जैसे कि आपने देखा है कि जो बर्ड्स की ड्रॉपिंग होती है, जो बर्ड्स की एक्सक्रीटा होती है, इट्स इन द पेस्ट फॉर्म, ये सेमी सॉलिड फॉर्म में होती है बिकॉज इट्स अ यूरिक एसिड, वो यूरिक एसिड ही होता है. So this is about this uric acid. It's insoluble, almost insoluble, or very less amount of water is required for the elimination of nitrogenous waste in the form of uric acid. Now, in the case of human being also, अगर हम बात करें human being में भी uric acid form होता है. एक बात याद रखिएगा, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि जैसे हमने जिसे बोल दिया कि वो अमोनोटालिज्म है तो वो सिर्फ अमोनिया बनाएगा, या यूरियोटालिज्म है तो वो सिर्फ यूरिया बनाएगा. ऐसा नहीं होता. हमने ये जो कैटेगरी बनाई है ये इस बेसिस पे बनाई है व्हाट इज द मेन मोड ऑफ एक्सक्रीशन. मेनली एक्सक्रीशन जो हो रहा है वो किस तरीके से हो रहा है उसके बेसिस पे डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज बनाई गई है. नाइट्रोजनस वेस्ट किसी भी तरीके का फॉर्म हो सकता है, बट मेन मोड ऑफ एक्सक्रीशन क्या है उसी के बेसिस पे. सो एज वी नो दैट ह्यूमंस आर द यूरियोटैलिक, but they also form the uric acid. So we can say that uric acid is also synthesized in the case of human body. How this uric acid is synthesized, ये देखते हैं human में uric acid का synthesis कैसे हो रहा है. This uric acid is synthesized by the breakdown of purine. जो प्यूरिन है नाइट्रोजनस बेसिस, उनके ब्रेकडाउन से यूरिक एसिड का फॉर्मेशन होता है. So प्यूरिन कौन से हैं? 2 टाइप ऑफ प्यूरिन, that is adenine and guanine. Adenine and guanine. These are the 2 purine nitrogenous bases. These two, adenine and guanine, they break down and they will convert into the xanthine. And this xanthine will convert into the uric acid. It will convert into the uric acid. So this is the form, this is a way by which the uric acid is also formed in the human body. In some conditions, what happens, the uric acid which is formed, it forms the crystals, and these crystals will deposit or accumulate into the joints. कभी कभी ऐसी conditions हो जाती है then these crystals of uric acids, the crystals of uric acids जो है वो accumulate हो रही हैं in the joints of humans, in joints, and this is represented as a condition which is known as gout. We call it gout. Gout is the condition where the uric acid accumulated in the form of crystals in joints is a gout. So याद रखिएगा, this is very important disease. Now let's see the examples of the animals which are showing this urecotelism. So examples are the insects, reptiles, especially we include the snake and lizards here, and the birds. These are the example of the animals which are excreting their nitrogenous waste in the form of uric acid. So uric acid is the least toxic and it can be released out with the less amount of water. Only 10 ml water is required for its excretion. यहाँ पे याद रखने वाली सबसे important बात ये है that least जो toxic substance है that is uric acid, whereas the ammonia is the highly toxic substance. So it has to be released immediately. ये main question जो है इन्हीं पे बन के आता है. That's all about this uric as the urecotelism, and earlier we discussed about the ureotelism. In the next video we will discuss about the excretory organ of some another animals.